busy with their own life to pay attention, too distracted, too uninterested. But that isn't always true. Some neighbours notice everything. And sometimes they notice things they wish they had never. My name is Clara Whitmore. For the past 12 years, I have lived on a quiet street called Maple Grove. It's the kind of neighbourhood people describe as peaceful. Neatly trimmed lawns, children riding bicycles in the evenings, porch lights glowing softly after sunset. From the outside, Maple Grove looks like the kind of place where nothing bad ever happens. But quiet neighbourhoods often hide the loudest secrets. And the house directly across from mine was hiding one of them. I remember the day the Hawthorne family moved in. It was early spring. The moving truck arrived just after sunrise. A tall man stepped out first, sharp suit, perfect posture. The kind of person who looked like he belonged in boardrooms rather than suburban streets. That was Victor Hawthorne. Behind him came his wife, Eleanor. Soft-spoken, elegant, always smiling politely. And then there was their daughter, Lily. She looked about 16. Quiet, reserved. The kind of teenager who rarely made eye contact with strangers. At first, they seemed like any other family moving into the neighbourhood. Friendly, respectful, private. But over time, small details began to catch my attention. Little things that didn't quite fit. And when you live alone, you learn to notice those little things more than most people do. Because when the world outside your window becomes your evening entertainment, you start to see patterns others miss. Patterns that eventually tell a story. And the story unfolding inside the Hawthorne house was far darker than anyone on Maple Grove could imagine. At first, it was just routine. Victor Hawthorne left the house every morning at exactly 7:30. Not 7:25, not 7:40, exactly 7:30. His black sedan would pull out of the driveway with mechanical precision, every single day. Eleanor Hawthorne rarely left the house. Sometimes she walked in the garden. Sometimes she sat on the porch with a book she never seemed to turn the pages of. But mostly, she stayed inside. The only person whose routine changed was Lily. Some days she left for school. Other days she didn't. Some evenings I saw her standing by the upstairs window, just staring outside. Not at anything specific, just staring, watching. Almost as if she were hoping someone might notice her. At first, I told myself it was none of my business. Families have their own ways of living, their own quiet struggles. But then something happened that made it impossible to ignore. One evening, around midnight, I heard shouting. It came from the Hawthorne house. The voices were muffled, but the anger inside them was unmistakable. Victor's voice, sharp, controlled, and Lily's voice, desperate. The shouting stopped suddenly. The lights inside the house went dark, and the entire street returned to silence. But from that night forward, I began watching more carefully. After the night I heard the shouting, something about the Hawthorne house changed. Not in an obvious way. From the outside, everything still looked exactly the same. The lawn was trimmed, the curtains stayed neatly drawn. Victor's car still left the driveway every morning with the same cold precision. If someone drove past Maple Grove without paying attention, they would think nothing had changed at all. But when you watch a place long enough, you begin to notice the quiet shifts. And the quietest change of all was Lily. Before that night, I had only seen her occasionally. Sometimes walking down the driveway with a backpack slung over one shoulder, sometimes sitting on the porch steps, scrolling through her phone. But after the argument, she started appearing at the upstairs window, almost every evening. Always in the same room, always in the same place. The light behind her was usually dim, casting long shadows across the walls. From where I sat by my living room window, I could see her silhouette clearly against the glass. At first, I assumed she was just looking outside, the way many teenagers do, watching the street, watching the world pass by. But the longer I observed her, the more something about it felt different. She wasn't simply looking outside, she was studying it. Her gaze moved slowly across the street, across the parked cars, across the houses. Sometimes she stood there for 10 minutes, sometimes longer. And what struck me the most was the stillness. Teenagers rarely stay still for that long. They check their phones, they move around, they get bored quickly. But Lily stood there quietly, patiently, almost like someone waiting for the right moment to do something, or the right person to notice her. A few evenings later, I saw something else that unsettled me. Victor Hawthorne walked into the room behind her. Even from across the street, I could see the way Lily's posture changed the moment he entered. Her shoulders stiffened, her head lowered slightly, and within seconds, she stepped away from the window. The light turned off, the curtains closed, and just like that, the room disappeared into darkness. It happened more than once. Every time Victor entered the room, Lily vanished from the window almost immediately. The pattern repeated so often that it became impossible to ignore. And patterns have a way of revealing things people try very hard to hide. But the moment that truly stayed with me happened on a quiet Sunday evening. The street was unusually calm that night. Most families had already gone inside for dinner. The sky had turned a soft shade of orange as the sun disappeared behind the houses. I was watering the small plants on my porch when I felt something unusual, the strange sensation of being watched. When I looked up, I saw her. Lily was standing at the upstairs window again. But this time, she wasn't staring out into the street. She was staring directly at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. The distance between our houses suddenly felt smaller than it had ever been before. Her expression wasn't angry. It wasn't frightened either. It was something more complicated. Something that looked like a mixture of exhaustion and quiet hope. Almost as if she had been waiting for someone to finally notice her. Then something unexpected happened. Slowly, cautiously, she raised her hand. At first, I thought she was going to wave, but the movement was too careful for that. Too deliberate. Her fingers lifted slightly, pressing gently against the glass. Not a greeting, not a casual gesture. It felt more like a signal, a silent message crossing the space between our two houses. For a moment, I wasn't sure how to respond, so I raised my hand too. Just a small movement, a quiet acknowledgement. The moment our hands mirrored each other through the glass, something in her expression shifted. Relief. That was the only way I could describe it. A small breath escaped her lips, fogging the window slightly. And then she did something I didn't expect. She looked quickly over her shoulder, as if checking whether someone else was in the room. When she turned back toward the window, the urgency in her eyes had grown stronger. Her hand moved again. Not waving, not pointing, just a small, uncertain motion. But somehow, even from across the street, I understood what it meant. She wasn't just saying hello. She was trying to say something. Trying to communicate something she couldn't say out loud. Before I could react, the bedroom door opened behind her. Victor stepped into the room. Even from that distance, I could see Lily freeze. Her hand dropped instantly from the window. Her shoulders stiffened again. Victor said something I couldn't hear, but whatever it was made Lily step away from the glass immediately. Within seconds, the curtains slid across the window. the light switched off.